All right, good morning, everyone. Thank you guys for joining us today on our 4th day out of 5 for Financial Literacy Month. Again, as you guys can see here at Dallas Habitat, we are hosting how to pay off debt and payoff strategies. We have the pleasure of having Ms. Terry with Chase. So I'll let her introduce herself and we'll get started.
All right, good morning, everybody. I'm so excited to be here. I am Terry Thomas. I'm a community manager with Chase. I have been with the organization 25 years and have had a number of different roles, but very excited to be a community manager now with Chase and to help do things like this, where I get to provide some great information that will hopefully impact you all and that you will use. So that's a little bit about me. I love to travel, but I love doing this even more. But really the things that we're going to talk about, managing our debt and paying it down will have such a positive impact on your life. So let's get started and talk a little bit about the two strategies we're going to jump into today. I definitely want to leave room for question and answers. So what do the two approaches have in common? And you're like, what approaches? You hadn't even said anything about approaches. So the two approaches that we're going to talk about today are going to be the Avalanche approach and the Snowball method, right, to pay off debt. So both of them allow you to pay off your debt quickly. Maybe one may be a little more quicker than the other, but they are going to assume that you have extra funds or discretionary funds to do these methods, right? Because you need a little bit of extra. You can't be so tight on your budget that you don't have extra funds to apply this method. And most importantly, it's the commitment piece, right? That's going to be really important to make these two strategies work for you. So let's take a look at how they work. So on the next slide, we talk about the Avalanche method, right? And with this approach, you're going to look at and make a list of all of your debt, but you're going to put your debt with the highest interest rate is going to be your priority. That's going to be the first one. Doesn't matter what the balance is. We're looking at the interest rate. So you're going to pay them down or pay them the most with the highest interest rate. So you pay the minimum amount on all your other debt, and then going back to that discretionary income, whatever's left, then you're able to put some of that towards that priority debt. But I do want to pause here and double click because it's important to pay off your debt, but it's also important to have a savings account because you have to have emergency funds, a rainy day fund. So, you know, if you have $200 left in your discretionary budget, then maybe you do half of that to the debt and half of that to your savings or any combination. But I do want to emphasize it's important to pay off your debt, but it's even more important to have that emergency fund. So when, not if, stuff happens, you've got something to fall back on and you're not going to be impacted and go into more debt trying to take care of an emergency. So rainy day funds, super important.
So Ms. Terry, before we move on to the second option, you had mentioned the Avalanche method, but also a rainy day fund. Now we are kind of talking about controlling our finances, you know, getting the foundation of how to move forward. And so, you know, it's great that we're talking about debt, and I'm glad you brought up the rainy day fund, right? And so what is an amount that you believe they should start with, right? Let's say someone doesn't have a savings account, someone has money at home, you know, where should they start off at, right? Do they plan to pay for their debt, or should they split it 50-50, or should it be like a 30-70 ratio? Should they kind of write it all down? What do you recommend for them to kind of be like, okay, I should handle debt, or I should handle trying to have an emergency fund, or, you know, a home buying goal of saving for a home, you know, my first home?
Right. So we're all human, right? This answer, let me do my disclosure, right? There is no perfect answer for everybody, right? What works for one person may not work for another person. However, you need to, and we have to, and this is, you know, when you point a finger at one person, three more are coming back at yourself. So I'm talking to me too. But what is really important is making sure that we look at our situation, our budget, our debt, and our financial goals, and then you base it accordingly. But I will say it's never too late to start. No amount is too small. So if it's you saving, you know, $1 a day, do it. One person I was talking with actually last weekend She started out doing saving all of her nickels, right, and putting them in a jar. It was just something easy to do. Now she's moved up to, she saves every $5 bill she gets. When she goes home, she puts it in the cookie jar. And then she gets so much saved up, and then she puts it in her savings account at the bank, right? She's trying to do the $10, but she said she's been struggling. She said she gets that $10 bill and she's like, I can do too much with $10. And she uses the $5 bill. But it's really think about what makes sense for you. But I definitely think we're human. So we're not in silos, right? We don't say, I'm doing this, now I'm doing this. There are multiple things going on in our lives. So same thing with our finances. There's no rule that doesn't say you can't save for your emergency fund, save for your house, and pay down your debt. It's just a matter of figuring out what does that look like. So if that starts out with being maybe $25 a month or a week or whatever to your savings account, and $75 to your debt, let that work. And then as your income increases or your debt decreases, then you'll have more discretionary funds. And then you can make more adjustments. Then that might be more going to savings and more going towards your debt, paying it down. I hope that answered that question. So let's look at an example of the Avalanche method. Or I think, well, the next slide, the pros and cons first, and then we'll look at an example. So the pros with this is that you are going to save more money because you're going to be paying, by the time you pay off the interest, well, you'll be paying the debt off faster, so you won't be paying as much as in interest, which means, ergo, you'll be saving more money. The cons to this one is you do have to have that discretionary income, right? You do have to have some money left at the end of the month to be able to pay down to your debt. Again, you're just paying the minimum on all your debt, and then your priority bill, which is the one that has the highest interest rate, you're going to figure out how much extra I can pay towards that, because all the extra that goes towards principal will help you pay down the loan faster and save on interest. It may take a little bit longer to pay that one. You're fine. But it can be hard to stay motivated, but you got to do it, right? It's something it's going to benefit you in the long run. So that's where we want to go with the Avalanche method. And then this is an example of it. So when I was saying list out and write down your bills and your debt, this would be an example of that. So you see credit card one is $5,500. It's got a 21% interest rate. But the car loan is number 5. Even though the balance that you owe on the car is higher, the interest rate is only 4%. So that's going to go to the bottom of the pile or the bottom of the list because the interest rate is so much lower. So you're going to focus on that 21% interest rate, any extra income, any extra payments that you can make. So you're going to definitely make your $30 monthly payment, but then that extra will start eating at the principal, which will lower the amount of time that you're paying on the debt. And then once you get that credit card number 1 paid, everything you were paying to credit card number 1, you're going to now go to credit card number 2 because that's your next highest interest rate. All right, we can go to the next slide. And then if y'all have questions, definitely make sure you put it in the chat box so we can talk to it and talk through it. So this next method is the Snowball method. This one feels better because it's the snowball, right? You can see the effects faster. With this one, you're going to tackle the smallest debt first. So you're going to take the smallest debt that you owe, the lowest balance, and start with that as your priority bill. So you're going to make a list again, and you're going to put it in order of your balances this time, not in order of the interest rate. And once the first account is paid, again, you're going to then take all of those payments and apply them to the next one. So let's talk about the pros and cons for the snowball effect. So the pros with this one is you have some easy wins. All right. I love the snowball effect because it feels good, faster, quicker. It gives you more quicker gratification. And it's easy to implement, right? You don't have to compare the interest rates and you don't have to look at anything other than how much do I owe? What's the lowest one? I'm paying that sucker off first. But then the cons are you're going to pay a little bit more in interest and it's going to take you a little bit longer to be debt free. So you want to balance that out and think about it. So let's go to the next one and I'll show you the example. So the example with the snowball effect, you see that the credit card number 2 in this example is going to be the priority bill because the balance is the lowest out of all of the debt that the 5 are there. $1,000 is the smallest one. So even though the interest rate is 18%, we're not looking at that. We're looking at that balance. So you're going to pay your minimum, and then any extra that you have is going to go towards the principal. And then you'll get that one paid off faster because it's the lowest one. But again, just like with the Avalanche, whenever you finish paying that first card, that extra money that you now have, apply all of it to the next bill, which would be the $4,000 personal loan, right? So that's always going to be part of the equation. Is just because we get one paid off, that doesn't mean we have extra money now to spend. No, that's more opportunity to pay down debt and to go towards our savings account. All right, let's go to the next slide. So other options is combining the two. Ding, ding, ding. Personally, for me, that is the option that I use because I do need that gratification. I need to see a win, and that helps you feel motivated, right? When you see that you've done and you've paid off some of the debt, you're like, woohoo, that's great. So I do a combination of the two. I'll pay off my lowest, and then I'll go to the higher interest rate. And then I'll get that one done, and then I'll go to the next lowest so I can feel like I've got another win. But again, everything is personal to you. So you want to make sure that us giving you this information doesn't mean anything if you don't use it. So you got to use what you know you like and what's going to work for you. Because I can tell you 50 million things, but if you don't do any of it or implement it, it's not going to work. So pick and choose what will work from these methods for you and your household. Again, there are no rules. There's no Terry police coming to get you. Say, you didn't do your debt right. I don't care. I'm going to celebrate every win with you. So whatever that means, however that looks, make it happen. All right, so the other options, combining the two, there are balance transfers that you can do. Sometimes you might get an offer in credit card debt consolidation, right? There are balance transfers that you can do for loans, debt consolidation loans, and then you can also do credit card debt consolidation. And a lot of times you'll get offers from credit cards that say 0% for 18 months. And that's something that you want to consider. But there are other things too. You want to look at how will it impact your credit score? What will the interest rate be after 18 months? Will you be able to pay off the debt that you're trying to pay off in that time? Because the pro to that is there's zero interest for whatever that time frame is. And then if you can make yourself figure out the numbers, right? If it's $1,000 and you want to pay it off in 18 months, then you divide that by the 18, and that tells you how much you need to pay each month. If you can handle that number and you know it will be paid off by those 18 months, definitely I say consider it. But if you say, oh, well, I know I'm not going to be able to pay off the $10,000 transfer in 18 months, think about it, because after those 18 months, what does the interest rate go to? Is it going to be higher or lower than what you're currently paying? And if you took that same amount of money that you're going to pay for this debt and applied it to your current debt, what would the differences be? And there are lots of calculators that you can get online that will help you figure out, if I do this with my debt, what will then happen? Take advantage of all the tools and resources that you can. Let's go to the next slide. So the bottom line is having a debt repayment plan allows you to eliminate debt more quickly. Finding the strategy that works best for you and your personal situation and preference is key. And we got it. It doesn't matter. I can take you to the water, but I can't make you drink. It's got to be some good flavored water that you want to taste so that you'll do it. So figure out what you like and what is palatable to you, right? Although the Avalanche Method saves more money, the Snowball Method leverages our human tendency to be motivated by progress, which I am so that. So try the approach, again, that's best suited for you. See how it goes. And either way, you're going to be on your path to financial freedom. We're going to be celebrating every win, whatever that looks like. And make sure that you pay, as you're paying off your debt, you're creating your emergency fund. And then after you have your emergency fund, then you're doing your other savings plans, whether that's that new house that you're working towards or whatever. We definitely want to make sure that you have all the resources to be successful, and we're here to support that. So some resources that you have: if you're in doubt, you can always consult a financial advisor or your Habitat home ownership counselors. So you have a great resource in them, and definitely want to make sure that you all take advantage of everything that they offer, because they are fabulous, fantabulous, and they're there for you all the time. There's also PocketWise Cafe, and it's a debt payoff calculator. And then there are other free financial tools. As I said, I know Chase, we have a budget builder. You can always go to chase.com financial goals, and it will give you a resource of financial tools that you can use there as well. So I guess we're going to get into some Q&A, Christian. I hope I did okay on time. I didn't want to take up all of it. So what's next?
Yes, no, Terry, thank you. Thank you. We did phenomenal. We actually do have a few questions.
Okay.
One of the first questions that they want to talk about is pretty much, do you have to call your credit card company to make sure that the extra payment goes to principal, or that's something you can do on your app, or by calling, or whatever the case might be?
So every institution is going to be different. I would check with them to find out. Oftentimes, if you go online and make the payments, they will have an option that will say principal payment, or like a regular payment is going to typically be your principal and your interest. But it should, and it may, depending on, again, the institution, have a tab or an option that says principal payment. Click that, and then it would apply to your principal.
Awesome, thank you. And then someone posted, how is it when it comes to paying off debt? Should they worry about it, or how would they implement it in their budget? Do you recommend having an item line, or just making it where they pay themselves towards the debt, or what have you?
So again, I'm going to say personal preference, but my recommendation would be to make it an item line. If you're doing a budget and you're regulated to that budget, if you have it listed as an item, then you're going to stick to it. So I would put it in your budget.
Awesome. And preferably, what you mentioned, you said that you like the mixture of Snowball and Avalanche.
Yeah, I'm a hybrid.
How would someone choose what's the better option for them, right? Because someone wants to save money, but realistically, is that a goal, or how can someone tell if that's the best option for them?
So knowing to thine own self be true, right? You got to know yourself. And if you know you're the kind of person who is detail oriented, a regulated person, you can follow a system, then you probably would be good with the Avalanche, because you have to have that consistency for the Avalanche to make sure that you pay it down, because even you won't get that immediate gratification or that quick gratification as you do with the Snowball. So I know for me, if I have that $1,000 bill and I see it going down and down and down, then that motivates me to keep going, right? Because I like the wins, and it's that gratification. So if you know you're someone who likes the instant gratification, you need to see some progress, then probably the Snowball would work well for you. That's just like somebody with the diet, right? Some people can say, I'm going to follow this diet, and then they lose 50 pounds because they're eating all the stuff. But then other people might be like, I can't do that diet. I need a little bit of cheesecake every now and then. So you need to find something that works for you. So in this instance, I'm a combination of following the diet and eating the cheesecake.
Okay, awesome, Ms. Terry. And I like to tell my clients, hey, let's have our Jesus talk, right? Let's look at ourselves in the mirror and be honest with ourselves, because we have to be disciplined, right? And if we know that we're not disciplined, the Avalanche effect method might not be something that we recommend, right? Like you mentioned, you want the instant gratification, especially here in the 21st century. People want they want it now. So the Snowball effect gives you that win, right? And it's slow wins that you can definitely alternate. And so we like to let you guys know, right? Like your budget, your spending plan, it can change with time. You also can change the methods, right? You can change the method based off how you do it. Someone did mention, if they do complete a balance transfer or a credit card consolidating with a company, how would that affect their credit score, or should they be worried about that in the long run?
So you always want to take everything into consideration with your credit, right? You know, your credit utilization is important. So look at if you're adding debt to your credit, then it will impact. But if you're paying down debt, that's also going to have an impact as well, right? So, like last year I got a new credit card, and I got it because I was going on a trip overseas. Didn't want the foreign transaction fees, so I had to weigh the waiving of the foreign transaction fees with the annual fee. I didn't take into consideration my credit utilization, and the new credit line actually made my credit score go up because I now had more credit limit with less debt. And so it was a positive impact. And I didn't even think about that part of it. So it's hard sometimes to think about everything that's going to weigh on you. And that's where the resources and tools come into play. Chase has a product called Credit Journey that is free for anybody. And this is all education. So whether it's Chase's or somebody else's, you can use the tools to do simulators to say, if this, then that. If I get this new credit card with a credit limit of, what will that do to my credit score? If I pay off this debt, what will it do to my credit score? And again, that's a free tool for anybody, whether you're a Chase customer or not. And there are lots of tools out there.
Awesome. Thank you for that research, Ms. Terry.
Mm-hmm.
I also did want to bring up, we've been having, how to build your foundation on Monday. We talked about investing and living a legacy. Now that we're talking about debt, what would you recommend to someone that they're looking at trying to invest, right? Because, they're starting, later than most people or later in the career. Mm-hmm. How would that interfere with their debt? Because that is debt reduction, right? Do you think they should invest based off the interest rate that depending on how much the interest rate is that they owe back? Or, should they try to hedge with, hey, if my mortgage is less than 4%, I could invest the money instead of paying a little bit more? What do you recommend to someone that's kind of debate about, should I put it to work in investing or should I put it, to pay off some debt?
I am going to defer on that question to a financial advisor, somebody who has a little bit more experience and would be able to answer that question better. I know we always do a financial plan for our clients, and it looks at what are your long-term goals, what are your short-term goals, so we can get you to where you want to be in the long run. And that's, again, something that we even have those resources, and you have a lot of information on the chase.com financial goals section. It will talk to investing, savings, spending, borrowing. So definitely take advantage of those resources, and it may answer some of those questions as well. But definitely, it doesn't hurt to have a conversation, right? It doesn't cost you anything. It's just a conversation, and it's always good to get an opinion from a professional who can help guide you in the right way.
Yes, no, for sure. I appreciate that. And one thing with the last one here, it says, what happens when you're trying to purchase a home and you paid off most of your debt, or you actually paid it all off, and you don't have the necessary mix of credit, right? So it's more of a credit question, but what is your take on that?
So, I think that's a good question. When you're buying your home, you've got your trusted team, right? You've got your home lending advisor, you've got your realtor, and then you've got your counselors here who are helping you with Habitat. So hopefully you all have considered and looked at all of those things before you're at the point where you're ready to get the home, so that you can come up with that game plan. It's not necessarily a deterrent to getting a home if you don't have a mix of credit, because they're still going to look at your credit history, right? So if you've had those things in the past, then letters can always be written to explain what's going on. And that's where your home lending advisor is your advocate.
Thank you, Ms. Terry. And again, guys, if you're not working with a counselor here at Dallas Habitat and you're just out in public, you can definitely reach out to your bank, credit union, a friend, someone that is specialized in the financial world, or definitely just check out our education here at Dallas Habitat. We have all our education is free. As Terry mentioned, they have some great resources at Chase. Definitely reach out to your bankers, get them involved, make sure they're working and they're getting paid, right? So why not put them to work? So if you don't mind leaving the chat, letting Terry know how much we love her being out here today. She did amazing, phenomenal work.
Thank you. I'll be sending a survey.
Yes, and she'll be sending a survey to see how she can improve, or what you guys liked or didn't like. Again, we'd like to thank you guys all for joining. A little bit about what we have going on later today. At noon, we will have Bola with Clever Girl Finance. She is the founder of the organization. And so she will be here to be our keynote speaker. So I hope you guys can all join, and thank you guys all for joining. With that being said, Ms. Terry, thank you so much for joining, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.
Bye, guys. Thanks for joining. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Ms. Terry. Thank you for being here with us.
Absolutely.